Hey guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lillian, and today we're gonna be going round Philly. And do subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I encourage you to watch till the end because there's gonna be surprises. Well, we downtown city center. Okay, we're about to start our journey. I think that's Independence Vista Center over there. I'm not sure what that is. Okay.
The senators met on the second floor. The House of Representatives met on the first floor. And to this day, we still refer to them as the upper and lower house. This is where the expression started, for upper and lower house.
Over there.
I've had a fill already.
To the left of Congress Hall, of course, is Independence Hall. That is where the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights were all either signed or ratified. Signing the Declaration of Independence was an act of treason toward the British government. If we had lost the War of the Revolution, which was a real possibility, the men that signed that document would have been hung as traitors. At the very least, they'd have spent the rest of their lives in jail. They were literally putting their lives on the line to sign the Declaration of Independence. The next building on your right is Old City Hall. This is where the first Supreme Court of the United States had chambers. That's when Philadelphia was capital of the United States, 1791 until 1800. First Supreme Court. And we're going to pull up in front of the Bourse building and possibly pick up a few more passengers. Unfortunately, the seats under the covering here are now taken, so it's going to mean they either sit in the rain or wait for the next bus. We're going to park here in front of the Bourse building. Bourse is a French expression for stock exchange. This was one of the first stock exchange buildings in the country. Today it's an office building, and on the ground floor is a very nice food court. All the seats are called yo. Now, yo is a common greeting, right? Yo, Joe, how you doing? But if you're coming out of Jewish History Museum, when you see it, it reads, boy. This is not the perfect place for yo. Coming up on your right is Christ Church Burial Ground, the most historic cemetery in the country. 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence are buried there. 4 of those 5 were congressmen. The 5th one was Benjamin Franklin. Franklin is buried right in the corner, coming up here on your right. We're going to circle the block. Well, actually, we're not going to circle the block. We just have to make a left-hand turn here. We could not get to the Betsy Ross house because there's some construction going on down there on the 2nd Street. So we're going to actually take a left-hand turn here and get onto Arch Street. That building on your right, United States Mint, that is the largest mint in the world. Now on your right, Constitution Center, and on the left is a picture postcard view of Independence Hall. Now coming up ahead of us on the right is the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. It's one of several Federal Reserves across the nation. This is where they determine economic policies, interest rates, and they are in charge of destroying old and counterfeit currency. Folks, we have a 1% for Art program in Philadelphia, and coming up at this next intersection is our first piece of 1% for Art. 1% for Art program started in 1957. It said basically that if you're putting new construction on property that's owned by the redevelopment authority, you must dedicate 1% of your construction budget to public art. Right here in front of the African American History Museum, that piece of art right in front of the sign is their 1%. It's called the 13 Whispering Bells of Freedom. It represents the silent struggle of the African American in this country to this day. Those bells have no clapper and will not ring. And that is the very first African American History Museum in the country. Coming up on the left is some more 1% for art. The glass facade on this parking garage is their 1% for art. Now, it's not whatever the builders want to do. It all has to be approved by the Art Commission. They like the idea, saying that this glass facade certainly makes it a little more interesting than a plain old parking garage. So they approved the proposal to make that glass facade their 1% for art. So my point is, the 1% for art takes all kinds of shapes and forms. It's not just statues. It's an awesome program, copied, modeled after in a lot of cities and countries around the world. Imagine 1% of the building's construction cost goes to public art. That's an awesome policy. Little 1% for art. Coming up on your right, 4 dragons. They are symbols of good luck in Asian culture. We are entering Philly's Chinatown. The 4 dragons represent the 4 seasons of the year. And they're only here because of our 1% for art program.
Is there a science behind them?
This is one of the largest and oldest Chinatowns in the country. It is well over 150 years old. Chinatown is stop number 5, the next traffic light or the next intersection. Anyone planning to get off in Chinatown? When we get to this intersection, you'll see our Friendship Gate. This is the gateway to Philly's Chinatown. The Friendship Gate was actually a gift from our sister city, Xianjian, in China. It was built by Chinese craftsmen using authentic methods and materials. You need to be very, very careful.
Wonder if it's on the left or right?
Here it is on your right.
Oh, there it is.
Gateway to Philly's Chinatown.
Okay.
Your other right. There you go. There's a bridge crossing Art Street in front of us. That bridge used to be a train trestle for the Reading Railroad. Today it's a footbridge for the Pennsylvania Convention Center. Now, it is the same Reading Railroad that appears on the Monopoly board. A lot of people spent their youth playing Monopoly, calling it the Reading Railroad. It's actually pronounced Reading. Several towns in Pennsylvania are named after towns in England. We have York, Lancaster, and Reading, to name a few. Reading, Pennsylvania is birthplace to the Reading Railroad. And the inventor of Monopoly is from Philadelphia. His name is Thomas Darrow. All the sites on the Monopoly board are named after places in Atlantic City or Philadelphia. Boardwalk, Park Place, Tennessee Avenue, Virginia Avenue, they're all down in Atlantic City. Reading Railroad, B&O, Short Line, Pennsylvania Railroad, the waterworks, the jail, they're all here in Philadelphia. Now, the lower level here on your left is the Reading Terminal Market. USA Today calls this America's #1 public market. Over 80 restaurants inside. No souvenir shops, folks. This is not a tourist trap. You'll find just as many locals as you will visitors in the Reading Terminal Market.
That's interesting.
This is great food, not fine dining, great food. The best food Philly has. And right here in the corner, ribs. No name, just ribs. Been there many times, folks. It's great. Ribs with macaroni and cheese. Thai food, soul food, Cajun food, barbecue, Pennsylvania Dutch food, delicatessens, roast beef, pulled pork, cheesesteaks, and hoagies, of course.
I'm hungry.
But they also have fresh fruit, produce, seafood, baked goods, and dairy products. It's a working supermarket. We're going to pull across the street here, right behind that big bus. That'll be stop number 6. And on your right is the Marriott Hotel, and on the sidewalk here to the right is the Marriott Hotel's 1% for art. The artist says this piece of art here represents our solar system. You figure it out. I never said we love all the art.
It's fashion district.
You want to sit on my lap?
Was built to be the Reading Terminal Market from day one. The upper portion now is no longer a terminal. Reading Terminal train terminal, it's now the Grand Ballroom for the Pennsylvania Convention Center. Now looking ahead on the left, that building at the end of the block, that used to be the Reading Railroad's corporate headquarters, also built in 1891. It looks more like a wedding cake. Italian Renaissance architecture. It is one of the most beautiful buildings in the city. 1891. Now I did talk about our 1% for Art program, which started in 1957. The architecture of the 50s prompted our 1% for Art program. The architecture in 1891 are buildings were pieces of art. But in the 50s, when buildings started to look a little bit more like the Marriott there on your right, I mean, the Marriott's not bad, but it pales in comparison to the former Reading terminal headquarters. It's also the tallest load-bearing masonry building in the world, which means there is no steel infrastructure behind the walls of City Hall. Every load-bearing wall is solid masonry. Now there's a statue on top of City Hall Tower, which is difficult to see because of the fog, but it's a statue of William Penn, and it happens to be the tallest statue atop any building in the world. From the shoes to the hat, it is 4 stories tall. I wish you could see it. City Hall was completed in 1901. It took 30 years to build City Hall. It's built in the French Second Empire style of architecture. All the statues are by Alexander Milne Calder, including that one that you can't see on top of the City Hall Tower. Now right below William Penn, which you can see, are 4 more statues, 2 Lenni Lenape Indians and 2 Swedish pioneers. The Lenni Lenape Indians were the first occupants of this area. They were here for thousands of years before William Penn arrived. And the Swedes were the first Europeans to settle this part of the world. We honor them with statues of their likeness on City Hall. On your right, the Market Street National Bank. That is a great example of 1930s Art Deco architecture. That's the real thing, folks, not a reproduction. That is authentic Art Deco architecture from the 30s. The building coming into view is not a church. That is the Grand Lodge of the Pennsylvania Free Accepted Mason Society. Freemasons. The building is 20 years older than City Hall. It's built in the Norman style of architecture. And on your left, on horseback, 2 Pennsylvania-born Civil War generals. First is General Reynolds from Lancaster County. He was the first general killed in the Battle of Gettysburg. And next to him is General McClellan from Philadelphia. Now I know we had a few Brits just get off the bus here at the Reading Terminal Market. Are there any more Brits on the bus today? No Brits? That's a shame. I'd like to point out to our British friends that the clock face on City Hall Tower is 2 feet wider than the clock face on Big Ben Tower. I'll make sure all the British visitors know that. There on your right is an abstract called Government of the People, and you figure that one out for yourself. Coming up on your right is the Love statue by Robert, Indiana. They're in Love Park on your right. Came here in 1976. Love by Robert, Indiana. And now this is stop 7 for Love Park. They are cleaning up the Christmas Village celebration here. Those tents and huts are not normally part of the Love Park. This is stop 7, Pennsylvania Railroad Suburban Station. 1930s Art Deco. Anyone getting off at stop 7? You recall as well that this is another one of the railroads that appear on the Monopoly board. You have the B&O, Short Line, Pennsylvania, and Reading. All 4 rail lines were here in Philadelphia at one time. Maybe next year, folks, come back and we'll have a water ice and a soft pretzel in the cafe. We're still going to call it the spaceship. No matter what the purpose of it is. It's nicknamed the spaceship. Turning left now onto the Ben Franklin Parkway. The parkway was built in the 1920s. Not part of William Penn's original plan for the city. The parkway has become Philadelphia's playground. This is where we have our parties, parades, concerts, and festivals. The flags that line the parkway represent communities in the city of Philadelphia, not the United Nations, like a lot of people think. And on your left, right by this Israeli flag, is the country's very first Holocaust memorial. 1964, Philadelphia erected the first Holocaust memorial. The entire plaza. At the end of the parkway is Philadelphia Museum of Art. That'll be stop 15 later in the tour. And between here and the parkway, there is a fountain. The fountain is currently turned off. They don't run the water throughout the year, but the fountain in front of us, you'll see when we get closer, is called the Logan Circle Fountain. It features 3 Lenape Indians that represent the 3 waterways surrounding Philadelphia. The man in the fountain represents the Delaware River. The woman represents the Schuylkill River. Schuylkill is an old Dutch word for hidden river. And the young woman in the fountain represents fear and fall. Takes place in the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Philadelphia. That building dates back to the 1860s, the Civil War. Right in front of the cathedral is Robert Indiana's other love statue, Amor, Spanish for love. Robert Indiana created that piece just for Philly in honor of Pope Francis's visit a few years ago. There's a great look at the fountain. This is stop number 8.
Oh, there's a fountain.
The 2 buildings in front of us are identical. They're modeled after the Twin Palaces in Paris, France.
Oh, so they're identical.
Only New Orleans has one from two Renaissance architecture in the city of Philadelphia.
Can't really get a good view over here.
Coming up on your right is our Shakespeare Memorial. And on your left is the All Wars Memorial to black soldiers and sailors. Very beautiful, very dignified statue that honors
By
the
the way,
sacrifice
that
of black
5 is
soldiers
the wrong
and
way.
sailors of the Revolution,
That 5
the
is the wrong
Spanish-American
way.
War, the Civil War, and the Great War.
Why?
The monument on your left predates World War II
There's the fountain right over there.
of 1930.
We're right past it.
Beautiful
I think
memorial.
we're gonna get up here in the Rocky Steps as well. So we're gonna go around 9 to 11.
That's better.
Because there's big long steps in the movie.
Don is going to bear right and go up the
Rocky.
outer drive of the bank. This is the Barnes Foundation. Anyone planning on visiting the Barnes? The
Perfection.
Barnes is considered to be one of the finest private art collections in the world. Put together by Dr. Albert Barnes from the 1950s to the 1920s to the 1950s.
Perfecto.
It contains the largest collection of Renoir in the world, along with dozens and dozens and dozens of Cezanne, Matisse, Van Gogh, Picasso, Native American, African, Greek, and Egyptian art, sculpture, furniture, hardware, design, jewelry, not just paintings. The entire collection, folks, is valued at $30 billion.
Wow.
A lot of people say to me, I don't have time to see the Barnes or the Museum of Art.
Perfecto, yeah.
I say, go to the Barnes. Every big city has a Museum of Art. No one has anything like the Barnes. It's truly unique. The next museum coming up on your right is the Rodin Museum. This is the largest collection of Rodin sculpture outside of Paris. 161 bronze marbles and plasters by Rodin. His most famous piece, The Thinker, sits right out front. Behind the Thinker is a facade, and 20 yards behind the facade is the entrance to the museum itself. And at the entrance to the museum is Rodin's other famous piece, The Gates
It's
of
a
Hell.
famous statue.
For reasons I can't explain, nor can I understand, the entrance to the Rodin Museum has become a favorite place for Philadelphia newlyweds to go for pictures after their wedding ceremony. The wedding photos. It makes no sense. Absolutely true, folks. I wish I could tell you I made that up. It's absolutely true. Springtime, May, June, wedding parties lined up on a Saturday afternoon to have their pictures taken in front of the gates of hell. We're going to turn right on 22nd Street now and drive through the Fairmount and Spring Garden sections of Philadelphia. This was all built up during the Industrial Revolution. Philadelphia was workshop to the world at that time. Building supplies, rope, paper, canvas, glass, toys, tools, Packard motor cars, Walton locomotives, clothing, carpeting, all kinds of goods coming from Philadelphia during the Industrial Revolution. The building on your left is from the 1950s. It's called the Parkway House. It is the first building of its size and importance designed by a woman architect in the city of Philadelphia. Her name was Elizabeth Fleischer. She He designed it so that everyone got equal amounts of sunshine, dawn till dusk. What a unique idea. He figured it out. It's an award-winning design. Everyone in need receives equal sunshine on sunny days, dawn till dusk. Now, as we travel up this hill, the thousands and thousands of row homes in this part of the city were once occupied by the workers of the Industrial Revolution. Hundreds of mills and factories with thousands and thousands of row homes. What I love about the neighborhood is the architecture. You'll see colonials, federal style, brownstones, Victorian, Art Deco row homes, and every block is different. In fact, it can change door to door, block to block, and every few blocks there's a marketplace, a clinic, a school, a pool, a recreation center, restaurants, lots of things to do. This is, as I said, a very desirable part of the city. Spring Garden and Fairmount. Parking, of course, is a problem. A lot of people don't even own cars. They take Uber, taxi, public transportation. If they're going out of the city, they'll rent a car. It's still not cheaper than paying insurance and payments and gas and everything else. Just rent a car when you're going out of the city. Otherwise, for hops around the city, use Uber. Now, before the Industrial Revolution, there were a few brownstone mansions of some wealthy Philadelphians. We're going to pass one such mansion coming up here on the left. It's called the Bergdahl Mansion. The Bergdahls made a fortune brewing beer, and this, folks, was their summer vacation home here on the left. This precedes the row homes. But Eastern State Penitentiary was actually here first, and I have no idea why they put their mansion so close to a prison. But the prison was here first, then came the mansion, then came the row homes. Eastern State Penitentiary closed in 1971. It's now a museum open for tours. Anyone planning to visit Eastern State Penitentiary at this time? Looks like we're all staying on board, Don. Here on your right, there's some federal architecture. On your left, some brownstone. Coming up on the right, some more brownstone. More federal on the left, and later you'll see colonial, Victorian. Eastern State Penitentiary, however, right there in front of us. If we look, we're going to turn left. If you look to the right, you'll see the main entrance. Very Gothic architecture.
It's like a castle, but small.
It's a jail.
Very famous inmate at Eastern State Penitentiary, Al Capone. He got his first taste of federal prison at Eastern State. He did 6 months time there on a weapons charge. Everyone knows he did time at Alcatraz, but this was actually his first taste of federal prison right here at Eastern State.
There was a prison, they call it penitentiary.
They have a haunted house tour of Eastern State Penitentiary. Spend your next 6 months. To the right, for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, just nothing but row homes. Fairmount and Spring Garden sections of Philadelphia, as I said, very desirable part of the city. This is an awesome place to live. There is so much to do. And on the next block, we have what I call Art Deco row homes. And you'll see Art Deco throughout the neighborhood, but it won't look exactly like this. It changes throughout the neighborhoods. And the next block is the finest example of Art Deco in Philly. This next building is the Fidelity Mutual Life Insurance Company, 1926. This is authentic, original Art Deco, not a reproduction. Finest example in the city. Every square inch, every nook and cranny screams Art Deco. And wait till you see the main entrance coming up here on your right. Even these two stanchions at the base of the steps scream Art Deco. Red terracotta roof, which you'll see if we get further away, full crown. That's the real thing. Our next stop will be the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Directly in front of us right now, and all these trees you see, these are sycamore trees. People are curious about what it is. They're sycamore. Coming up on your right is a statue of Joan of Arc. Not solid gold, folks, it's gilded. Solid gold statues don't do well in Philly. Coming up on your right, some unusual pieces of art. The first one is called Symbiosis by an artist named Roxy Payne. It's made of stainless steel. Symbiosis, two things in harmony. This is a common scene in the woods and forests, especially after a storm, right?
On the hill?
Made of stainless steel, which is very difficult to work with. It's very impressive what he's done with the limbs, twigs, and branches. The next piece is by an artist named Mark DeSevero. And Mark, what does Iroquois here, what does it represent? And Mark says, there is no representation in my work. Nothing. I want people to experience it the way they experience music. Okay, thanks for that, Mark. You take a right-hand turn here at this light and head back to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Nobody's top 15. Yeah, Mark's got stuff all over on the right side of the Art Museum steps. Rocky, of course, is one of the most popular statues in the city. It is, however, not art. It is a movie prop. Keep that in mind. Now, on your left is the most beautiful statue in the city. That is the Philadelphia Washington Monument. It's made from a life mask of Washington's face. Below the horse are carvings of scenes of the Revolution, and the base of the statue is surrounded with North American wildlife. It all represents Washington, the man, his time, and his country. Do take time to check out the Washington Monument after you get that picture of Rocky with your fists in the air. Okay, this is stop 15.
We're getting off.
Winter is quick, actually, winter is here. Hopefully we'll get some snow this year.
If you've watched till this point, I just want to say thank you guys. I love you so much. Do subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys in the continuing segment. Watch till the end because there's going to be some excitement, fun, and some little entertainment.
Next stop will be the Franklin Institute.
Franklin
Is
Institute.
a world-class science museum.
Franklin Institute
Very
Science
popular
Museum.
venue for elementary schools and summer camps for their day trips. But they have exhibits for older generations as well. My wife and I came down and saw King Tut's treasure, the terracotta warriors from China, the body human, and artifacts from the Titanic when they were on world tour. We saw them also at the Franklin Institute. They have a planetarium and an IMAX theater, the original lunar landing module model, and the most well-restored and preserved Wright Brothers 1911 Model B airplane. They have a replica of the human heart large enough to walk through, following the path of blood. Anyone on board this bus grow up in the Philadelphia area? You are from the area? Okay. Inevitably, people that grew up in this area have been to the Franklin Institute, usually around the time of their 6th grade of education. It's actually a rite of passage for children in Philadelphia and the surrounding counties to come to the Franklin Institute and see the human heart and walk through the heart. I did it in 6th grade. I still remember it. In the background, you hear quite an experience. They got an exhibit now exploring space. They're planning a $20 million addition to the Franklin Institute, all about the future of living in space. It hasn't even started yet. They haven't broken ground on it yet, but it'll be quite an exhibit. When it is complete. There on your right, that's the Franklin Institute. Now, right in front of the Franklin Institute, on your right here, you'll see a biplane. It really gets to people's curiosity. So, I'm going to do some research and figure out what's with this biplane here sitting in front of the Franklin Institute. Turns out this biplane was built by the local Budd Company, B-U-D-D. Now, Budd in Philadelphia used to make stainless steel electric passenger trains. They decided they would build a stainless steel airplane. People laughed and said it will never fly. Stainless steel is too heavy. Well, they They engineered it, built it, flew it, and then parked it in front of the Franklin Institute to put an exclamation point on their accomplishment. That's the story of the biplane here on your right, sitting right in front of the Franklin Institute. Built by the
She looked out of place.
Penso Franklin Institute.
Set us up 3 hours.
Anyone getting off at the Franklin Institute? Yep, getting off here, Don. Before they could widen it, they had to destroy, of course, a lot of homes and buildings that were already here. Then they came across St. Clement's Church. St. Clement's Church is on the next block. Now, they weren't going to destroy St. Clement's Church, built in 1845, but in 1927, instead, they decided to move St. Clement's Church. How do you move a huge church structure? Well, what they did was they excavated the foundation of the building and then put the entire building on steel rollers. I'm simplifying, of course, but excavate the foundation, put the whole thing on steel rollers, and then just push it back 50 feet. I'll tell you now, if they did it today, we would call it an engineering miracle. But they actually did it in 1927. And wait till you see St. Clement's Church. You will be amazed. The information I've just given you comes right off the church's website, so I would call it a pretty reliable source.
Not my quick.
Welcome aboard.
They never killed anyone.
My name is Mike. Our driver is Don. St. Clement's Church is coming up this next intersection on the right. Built in 1845 and then moved in 1927. Here it is on your right. Just excavate the foundation of the building, put the whole thing on steel rollers, and then push it back 50 feet. There it is. Amazing. As I said, if they did it today, we'd call it an engineering miracle. They actually moved it in 1927. You may have noticed murals as you drive around the city of Philadelphia. That's the Mural Arts Program. There are thousands of murals throughout the city. It started back in the 1970s. Here's an example on your left. The first few murals were actually painted by graffiti artists. Try to put those talents to a more useful purpose. We still use graffiti artists, as well as graduates and students of the various art schools in Philadelphia for our mural arts program. All right, folks, so I've told you 100 times I talk about history, art, architecture, and food. For the next few blocks, there is no history, no art, no architecture, no food. This is a dead zone in the tour. No historical sites, no real interesting architecture. Like, if you see a light in the window on the 3rd floor, that's my son. 30 years of construction. 30 years of construction. And now we're on Broad Street, ladies and gentlemen. It dates back to the Civil War. In fact, the Union League was a recruiting station for the Union Army during the Civil War. Right here on your right, the Union League. Its mission statement still remains: support the military. Very fine social club for men and women of all races. Now, stop 19 is coming up on your right, the Bellevue Stratford Hotel. And we're getting off at 19. Getting off at 19, Don. This is the Bellevue Stratford. Same architecture as City Hall, French Second Empire. Every president from FDR to Obama stayed at Bellevue when they visited Philadelphia. The grand ballroom there has a chandelier and a light system that was designed and engineered by Thomas Edison. It's still in use. We're going to pull through the intersection there and come to a stop for you. I'm not sure about these barriers. There at 30 Franks didn't change anything, except that the outer walls are now adorned with portraits of people named Frank. Inside, it looks just like the speakeasy it was back in the 1920s. The outer walls, you'll see portraits of Aretha Franklin, Frankenstein, Frank Sinatra, Frank Zappa, Bill Francis, Frank Perdue, Frank Furter.
All the friends.
Here it is on your left. 30 Franks. Philadelphia Restaurant Guide says this is what every neighborhood bar wants to be. That's pretty high compliment. Now in the 1950s, this is a very regulated part of town. A lot of the homes on Pine Street here were abandoned, decrepit, falling down, and city council was going to tear it all down and start over. But we had a city planner at the time named Edmund Bacon, who happens to also be the father of Kevin Bacon, they're from Philly. He suggested, look, let's sell these homes at fire sale price and have the new owners restore them. That's what we did. What we have here is authentic federal architecture from the 1800s. Here on the left is a great example. That side street, that's federal architecture. Never said beautiful. It's authentic federal architecture from the 1800s. Now, a lot of the buildings on Pine Street are shops and boutiques. They have a business license which allow them to put up signs, awnings, and picture windows. So I'm only referring to the privately owned homes. And the best examples are there on the side streets here, again on the left. Great example of authentic 1800s federal architecture. Very plain, very functional. Straight lintels above the windows and doors. You don't find much dental work, no arches, no scrolling. Very plain, very functional. Ugly.
1800.
But it is authentic. This is stop number
Authentic
21.
21.
Shops of Pine Street. And we used to call it Antiques Row, but the antique shops moved away. Now we just call it the Shops of Pine Street.
Shops of Pine
On the next
Street.
block, folks, we have, coming up on the left, Pennsylvania Hospital. This is the first free public hospital in the nation. It was founded by Ben Franklin and Dr. Thomas Bond in 1777. It featured the very first surgical amphitheater in the
First
nation,
hospital.
where medical students came to see surgery being performed. Now, surgery was performed via a skylight. Skylight on top of the main building here on your left, and below was a surgical amphitheater. Common procedures were broken bone and hernia repair, amputation, and tumor removal. It's still a hospital to this day. The main old building there is now administration and museum, but the modern hospital sits behind. It's still a hospital. It's no longer free. Now we're going to start seeing colonial architecture, which is 100 years older and much more beautiful, but not at first. Right here at first, it's still some federal architecture on your right, and on the left is fake. No one lives there, folks. The lights are on, but nobody's home. If you look above that roof line, that is the hospital's parking garage. So this thing on the left is a fake. It's just a facade. You can't open the doors, you can't open windows. You know what's weird? They get junk mail. There on the stoops, there's junk mail piling up on the stoops.
That's
Once a week, the
weird.
hospital's ground crew has to come up and collect all the junk mail because no one lives there. All right, this is colonial architecture. These
Colonial
are
architecture.
1700s, authentic 1700s colonial architecture, $1 billion row homes. There's new construction scattered about because they could not save every single row home back in the 50s, but that's pretty obvious where that is. But this is authentic 1700s colonial architecture. Now there are places of worship I'm going to be pointing out for the next couple of blocks. If you look to the right here at 6th Street, you'll get a glimpse of the Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. It is the oldest AME congregation in the nation, right there on the right. That church sits on a parcel of land that's been owned by African Americans longer than any piece of land in the nation. And now coming up on your left, you'll see a Jewish synagogue. Big Star of David over the main entrance. Now this used to be just a plain old row home in 1901, but in 1910, they converted it to be Congregation Vilna. I've never seen a synagogue in such a location. Right here on your left, Congregation Vilna. Now on the next block, there are three places of worship. On your left, the second building is an abandoned Ukrainian Catholic church. It's been for sale for decades. Someone finally purchased the building. They're not going to use it as a place of worship, but they will preserve the architecture, which is a nice thing. Here on your left, the Ukrainian Catholic Church. On your right, Pine Street Presbyterian Church. Every flag in that graveyard is a Revolutionary War soldier's grave.
Wow.
This church is nicknamed Church of the Patriot because of all those patriots buried in the graveyard. Now, in 1777, the British Army occupied Philadelphia. While the Army was here, they went in and desecrated that church. They ripped out the fuse for firewood. They stabled their horses inside. Some say they tore down the gates and fences for munitions and cannon. Then, the British Army crossed 4th Street here, came over to the Episcopal Church to worship. It's ironic. And why are there no flags in this graveyard? Well, because in 1777, this was the Church of England. No one joined the revolution from this parish. Side by side, patriots and loyalists. Both churches date back to the city of Philly and the new Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They still call it Society Building today.
1600s. So we look at 1800s, 1700s, now what, 1600s.
Oldest marketplace. Everything on your right, the entire plaza, is the Philadelphia Vietnam Memorial. Now, much like the memorial in D.C., looking ahead, slightly to the right, you see two manila-colored smokestacks. They belong to the USS Olympia. That was Admiral Dewey's flagship during the Spanish-American War in the Battle of Manila Bay. Right next to it, it's a heavily armed cruiser bristling with guns, and it's open for tours. Right next to the Olympia is a World War II submarine called Gokuna, also open for tours. And if you look downstream a bit to the right, those four manila-colored masts, they belong to what was once a German merchant ship called Kurt. When World War I broke out, Kurt was harbored in Oregon.
Immediately I turned on my camera, I went off. I won't have memory after today.